I want us to look for ourselves in this. Because one of the words that comes to my mind is, you spoiled little... How can you have experienced all that and it's not enough? See, this is why during the Passover meal, singing the song Dayenu is actually so important. Because Dayenu means it would have been sufficient, it would have been enough. And the song goes through if he had brought us out of Egypt and not done anything else, it would have been enough, Dayenu. If he had brought us out of Egypt and then brought us through the wilderness and through the sea, that would have been enough. If he brought us through the sea and not brought us to Mount Sinai, it would have been enough. If he brought us to Sinai and not given us the Torah, it would have been enough. If he gave us the Torah and not brought us to the land, it would have been enough. But we're never satisfied. And so can we actually say Dayenu in our lives? Can we say, I am satisfied? You know, we go through the Deuteronomy 8, when we finish eating, we go, have you eaten are you satisfied thing? Because we should be satisfied and appreciate who gives us all these things. I mean, they could have still been slaves in Egypt. They could have been. One of the things that the Jewish tradition in their book called the Haggadah, which they use to go through the ceremony of the Passover meal, is that when the children ask what's going on, they say, this is what the Creator did for me when I came out of Egypt, and had he not done so, we would still be slaves today. That's an acknowledgement of saying, this is what he did for me. You've got your own testimony. You've got your own miracles, your own signs, your own witnesses to the things that he's done in your life. But how quickly do we get to but I don't have, and I want, and I'm suffering need and craving and desiring stuff, instead of realizing how much you have and taking joy in that. I mean, that's really one of those things. How can we get to that place? You know, I mentioned briefly that, you know, I had an opportunity to go on Black Friday and get a new phone really cheaply. Guess what? It didn't work out. I could get upset about that, or I could realize my phone still works just fine. And if I want to buy a new one and pay more, it's okay. Why should I get upset about that, though? I mean, I have what I need. But there are those that would have gotten upset if they missed out on that special deal or whatever. I was only upset that I wasted time sitting when I could have been doing something else. But even then, I didn't really lose anything, so I let that go too. Nothing horrible happened, nothing was lost. In other words, that's just one of those small things, but you know what? How many times do we get really upset about a small thing like that? Somebody breaks something in your house. Some food gets ruined because you got distracted when you're cooking. So what? It's not what you desired. It's not ideal, but it's not that awful either. I remember watching a motivational speaker one time, and he was talking on a week-long event where he had millionaires basically there. And he was asking them about some of their struggles with feeling successful. And he asked one guy, and he said, well, what do you need to be in your life so that you would feel successful? Well, I've got to own this many businesses and have this much in the bank and have this much. He had this long list of things. And the instructor was like, well, no wonder you have trouble feeling successful. You set up these really hard rules, you know? And he asked the next guy, and he said, what do you need to feel successful? And he said, every day above ground is successful. Guess what? He feels successful every day. Every day I wake up is successful. He doesn't have any hard rules to feel successful. Some of you fall into this trap. You won't feel happy or joy or successful or whatever it is, satisfied, until your little list gets met. And so you're miserable, and you're frustrated, and you're depressed, and you are dealing with anxiety because you can't find that place. This is what these Psalms are about. Can you get to that place of saying, I am so blessed in my life right now. Oh, I'm broke, and my car doesn't work, and I might have just lost my job, and I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And I know my Creator, if I stand in that integrity of my belief and my confidence and wait on Him, will provide all those things. And you know why I know that? Because He's done it before. And most of you have been in this thing long enough, you've lived life long enough that this is not your first rodeo, so to speak. You've been through that hard place, and He's provided from that hard place. None of you ended up either diseased or in jail or dead from those things that came up. Now, some of you gave really good testimony. There was one good testimony that I want to just mention indirectly from Thanksgiving, and I know this person maintained a really good attitude through the whole thing. I'm not sure all of the family members always did, but that's because it's hard. But, there are those that have lost jobs, lost all of their savings, only to get a job and have it all replenished and then some. But it was a long time coming, and it was a potential suffering and panic that could feed in. I don't know what everybody did in the family, so I'm not saying anybody did or didn't, but I just know that that's one of those things that if you can hold through, that's why we have the book of Job. Everything was taken away from him, but he was given everything double later. But what did Job do? He stood steadfast and trusting that somehow this was going to make sense, that Yahweh was going to make it make sense. But now that you've been through that, and the person knows who I'm talking about who went through that, there's no way that it'll be any harder if it ever happened again because you've seen it happen. And those who've heard that testimony say, oh, if it happened for him, it could happen for me. And all of you have those testimonies. Hey, hang in there. Yah will provide. This is my testimony. Because as far as I know, not very many of you were out on the street. And some of you that have been on the street are no longer on the street. Because some of you have been. He does provide. Some of you, like myself, I was single a long time. Yah eventually provided. Some of you have been single longer than I was single. Yah has provided or will provide. Maybe He's going to provide you with the shalom knowing that single is fine. But we have to learn, this is like what Paul said, to be whatever state I'm in, to be okay, to be satisfied in whatever state I'm in. That's a lot of what's going on here in this psalm. This is about covenant. What is the covenant? If you do what I say, I will take care of everything else. But that doesn't mean that you'll never have that moment where you feel like, how am I going to make it now? Because you see throughout the book, there's tons of that, where the people face, oh, wow, how are we going to get past this? How is this going to work out okay somehow? We always use that example, being at the sea. There's no way they were thinking, well, if you just go ahead and part that sea already, we can get on with this. They weren't thinking that. There's no way. You're thinking it because we know what happened. But if you ever could imagine reading that for the first time, or just go find someone who's never heard that story, have them read it for the first time, and ask them, what do you think's going to happen? There's no way they're going to come up with, well, God's going to create a wind that's going to blow and separate the sea, and they're going to walk through on dry land. There's no way they come up with that. Yah's going to come up with answers there's no way you're going to come up with. But that's part of His covenant. If you're going to covenant, He says, I will take care of you. Now, He didn't say at what level of caring. He didn't say you're all going to be in palaces and living like kings and have gold flowing out of your belly buttons. He did say you will have what you need. I will take care of your needs. Of course, we have what I've talked about many times. What do we have? We have a terrible needs, wants, disconnect. We have a hard time separating a need from a want. Well, I need a new car. No, you need something to get you to work and to the store. And He'll provide what you need. He might provide you with a new car, but you don't need it to be a new car. You need it to be something that'll get you to and from work. See, be careful how we word these things in our hearts and in our minds, this idea of what we need versus what we want.